Okay. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, or good evening. Um, Today, we're going to be talking about awareness, awareness as an entryway to healing. We're going to be recording it today. I will be putting this on our group page and also on YouTube. But today is really about a conversation. Um, I have a lot to share, but I really want it. I think there's more to be gained from conversation, especially on this topic today. What I'd like to explore is this: uh, what awareness means to us, what awareness means to us to be aware, and what methods do we maybe currently explore to be more aware, right? What can help facilitate awareness in your life? Um, what can we do to achieve more presence of like mind, body, and spirit? Um, what does it mean to be honest, right? Can I take an honest look at myself right now? Like, who am I? What do I think? How do I act? How do I behave? How do I respond or react to things within and around myself? Taking a real honest look at that, which will lead us into perception. What is my perception of myself? How I relate to self, to others, to stuff, right? So we're going to hold that as well. And then also looking at the possibility of not the possibility of, but the difference between perception and truth, right? And or is there a difference? Maybe there's not a difference, right? And that will admit. Okay. And then finally, we're going to look at surrender. Surrendering into, I'd like to say surrendering into the truth, but surrender is going to be different for all of us. So we'll really kind of hold this as well. So we look at awareness, we look at honesty, we look at releasing perceived reality, right? Perception, and then ultimately surrender. And how can that lead us into this possibility of seeing illness, pain, dis-ease through different eyes, right? For me, this is the interesting piece, is if I can change my perception of my so-called reality, may I gain greater understanding of the interconnectedness and the truth in all things. This is something I think about a lot. And similarly, and we kind of get into more later too. Oh, I'm going to go ahead and just so you know, you're all unmuted. So if there's any background noise, you can mute yourselves if you want. But yeah, this idea of if I can change, admit. Hello, everybody. If I can change, how does that affect not just my little world, but can it affect the world at large? Possibilities. So I'm going to begin with a story. As always, whenever I teach, the universe conspires to show me something about the very thing that we're exploring. I'm sure I brought this up before. And if you've been in my classes, you may have heard that last year I like may had a major fall and there was like this nerve pain. And then it went away suddenly. Well, lately it came back and it's nervy. It's a mass. It kind of is like this bundle of something. And when I experience it, it brings up a lot of thoughts and feelings. It brings up a lot of worry and fear. And if I'm not mindful to stay really clean about my experience and what I'm simply experiencing sensorially, I can easily be hijacked. Like those kind of desperate emotions like worry, fear, guilt, like that kind of stuff will just hijack my life force energy, right? If I'm not mindful, worry and fear have the power to derail me, to obliterate my happy, kind, loving, compassionate self. Just everything is extricated, everything, it falls away. So I have to be really mindful if I get scared to hold that differently. Um, yeah, I have to be, like keeping that ball lifted. It's going to take a little bit more work if those emotions are coming in. Okay, so the story, um, without the story. So I wake up, right, and there's this pain, and it began a year ago, and my mind begins to race, and I think, this is a lump. This is some kind of, it's been here for too long. It's the perfect recipe or petri dish for big C cancer, right? The presence of the neurotoxins that are in my body, a high viral load from this, that, or the other. I mean, you can feel the like spiral that can happen. No matter how much work I do, I'm still subject to this spiral, to the going down this rabbit hole, down, down, down the rabbit hole, right? I have unresolved or uncared for physical or emotional disturbance. I didn't tend to that. Oh no, something bad's going to happen to me. So what do I do to stop the chatter? So I'm in the habit now of, and I've been doing this for about 2 years. I'm in the habit now of when I feel that kind of intensity, and I'll do it even with the kind of monkey mind where I'm going over a story again and again. I will stop. It's very, very hard. I'll stop and I go to my window actually, and I simply just look out at out my window. I look at the trees, the grass, the gate, just like very simple. And I place my hand on whatever part of the body is not doing well. So in this case, it's like my right breast, pec, lymph, whatever. So I just put it there, right? If it was my brain too active, I'd put my palm there. So I place my hand there and I simply breathe. And I try to empty out as much as possible, empty out my brain, right? Admit. Okay. So then I simply ask a question. Usually I'll say it aloud. I live alone, so I could easily be like, what's going on? What's happening? I'll just talk to the pain, right? Or I can talk to something outside myself, something that is greater than me, stronger than me, right? So I will just ask, like, what would you have me know? What would you have me do? Right? This sort of thing. Well, it was a kind of morning that those words, there was no words. It was a wordless morning. So I simply stood kind of in reverence and just asked without words, what would you have me know? But it was more of a feeling because it was so intense, right? So I couldn't even get the words. And I stood there and looked out the window and felt the pain and looked out the window. And finally the words came in. I am not afraid to die. I am not afraid to live. And what was so interesting, and this is reminiscent of something I've heard Gabor Mate say, and those of you who have taken my trauma and addiction class have heard me talk quite a bit about him. And when he talks, there's a quote that he's brought up when talking to somebody who is an addict that he was working with, where he says, "Aren't you afraid to die?" And the guy says, "I'm more afraid to live." So when this came into my mind, I felt maybe there was the influence of that, right? I have a knowledge of that. I don't want to say it just came to me suddenly, right? There's influence of what I experienced in my life, but it was very strong and it was coming from an I. So it wasn't saying, you're not afraid to die. It wasn't like something outside myself trying to instruct me. It was something deep within me that was saying, like a soul part was saying like, I am not afraid to die. I am not afraid to live. And it was very inspiring, very encouraging. And in that second in time, I was not afraid to die. And I didn't have the fear and the worry that this was going to lead to something. So for me, this is related to awareness. It feels like I don't know if you tell me, it's not a departure from this because it was in that moment, I was able to quiet enough that I was aware of what was going on in my body. I didn't ignore it. I was honest about what I was feeling. I also knew there was something deeper at work and that I ultimately needed to surrender to it and listen. I needed to listen to what it had to teach. We see this in Radical Remission, if anybody's read that book, right? This possibility of befriending or realizing the gift that is something that is so called wrong with us. So I wanted to start with this story just to kind of like whet our appetite of where we're about to go. Because for me, awareness, honesty, perception, and Ultimately, surrender can lead us into places where we're not governed by worry and fear. And ultimately, possibly, we can enter into a place where we're not dying, for want of better words. So I wanted to just pause there and open it up. So I said a story. I mentioned awareness, honesty, perception, surrender. Is there anything that comes to mind, a memory, a thought, an insight so far as we begin this class of ours that you'd like to share right now? And then after that, we'll go into some other questions and possibilities. But is there anything that is burning that needs to be said right now? And welcome everybody that came in.
Chantel, when you said that, that was a power statement. Like I could feel the strength behind it. It's almost like no longer were you in a victim role. You were totally in the space of like, I am, it was like, it was really, really powerful. So there was just something about that I was like, wow, you go, girl. It was like that essence to it. Yeah.
So cool. Thank you for saying that. Yeah. And I couldn't have gotten there with my mind. I couldn't have done that. I couldn't have
No.
done that if I tried to be like, I am totally okay. Everything is fine. There is no such thing as pain, no fear. I can't do it there. It has to come from the quiet place where something's moving through. Yeah.
And also from the body. So there's the hook in there too. So when the body speaks, there is your truth too.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
Very cool.
Anybody else? Any insights? Any maybe similar things that have happened in moments?
Chantel,
Yeah. Hi.
hi. Back in 2011, I was diagnosed with breast cancer and went out to the car and cried for a little bit. But all of a sudden, it was just this big thing hit me that I'm okay. I'm okay if I pass away, and I'm okay. In life, I have to do this, have to do that. And all of a sudden, it was so freeing. It's like, I am free to live the life I want to live. You know, I am going to wear feather earrings to work. I'm going to speak my truth when I need to. And it was just wonderful. So it was really that moment where, I had to look at the fact that I might not be anymore that freed me to say, hey, and, do I always stay in that space? No, you know, but I can go back to that and know that that power is there in me whenever I need it to come back again.
So thank you so much.
I'll share, Angelique.
Hello.
So I think hi, how are you?
Good to see you.
So good, good. So I'm listening to you guys and I'm still like literally learning to pause. You guys are way advanced than me. Like I intellectually know what to do, but when situations come up for me, I can still, I'll pause for like 5 seconds and then I'm like, oh no, that's not going to go that way. And I'll go for attack. So, but I'm aware of it, I'm aware. Something like, okay, you need to go stand back for a half hour or an hour. And yet I'm still not able to fully do it. So yeah, it's just kind of fascinating. And then afterwards, I'm like, you were supposed to pause. You were supposed to pause. So anyway, I just thought I'd chime in and share that.
So good. So good. Anybody else? Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, somebody just unmuted.
I was going to share.
Sandra, hi.
Hi. Um, acceptance, I guess you'd call it, for a while now. Since about 2015, I have something called lipedema. But noticed, doctors, some don't believe in it, literally, some can't recognize it, and certainly can't diagnose you. And as it progresses, it limits your mobility. Uh, the self-care for it takes like 4 to 5 hours a day if you did everything you're supposed to do. And for years, I would ask the doctors, what's wrong with my legs? It's like the bottom of me and the top of me don't match. And they'd say, well, you're eating too much. Well, I wasn't eating anything. And really, lipedema is not affected by diet or exercise. It's just, it's a lymph issue where the lymph itself isn't moving. So, the fat cells in there start developing into nodules, and then they create more lymph not moving, so it just snowballs. And the diagnosis, and I just got mad, having it for so long, and I could see something was wrong, and no doctor understood, but I just got mad, and that I have stayed mad. And so my legs were bad enough that I was issues, but I snuck into nursing school. I didn't make it through without my left knee, the meniscus in it tearing, because I'm bow-legged from the fat pads in the middle. I'm literally bow-legged. I didn't realize this, but they stuck me into something called SimLab, and I did finish. I was walking on crutches with braces when I graduated, and I just got mad, and I have stayed mad, and that's how I handled it. I started reflexology. That's how I found you, Chantel. Started reflexology classes. I'm going back to an advanced class with Ralph Ritchie, who is one of your biggest fans. I'm so happy. He's starting another advanced class this year. He's been ill, and I was so worried that it wasn't going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a Reiki. I've become a Reiki master teacher now. I've just gone off the rails to enjoy what I enjoy, and I'm still. However, I haven't made any progression with my disease. I see a acupuncturist. We're trying to treat it using since allopathic medicine has let all of us down. I have a lot of support groups I belong to. Allopathic medicine, regular medicine's let us down. So I'm looking into Chinese medicine, other ways, aromatherapy, any and everything, complementary medicine, anything and everything to try to treat the symptoms. And my acupuncturist says that it's my mindset that keeps me from progressing in the disease. And my friends say you shouldn't be angry, but the anger is what gets me up and gets me going. She says it's because I always talk about the other ladies and how are we going to take care of them, because a lot of ladies are bedbound, homebound, bedbound, and so I got started on this whole thing looking at Sally Kay's reflexology protocol. And I said, I'm going to learn that, and I'm going to go to these ladies' homes and try to help them manage a better level of wellness.
I'm going to because it's such an important thing that you're saying. I think it's important that we don't, first of all, everybody, thank you for sharing. This is exactly, there's so much more to say and to listen to. But I just want to interrupt because I think what you said is really important. Which is that you said mad, I'm mad. And I think it's so important that we give attention to and honor the emotions that that can fuel and change our lives for and move us in a different direction. I don't want to say better or worse. They move us into a better direction. And I think all of us have these stories of what brought us to, many of you are reflexologists. A lot of the people that end up watching my work, or these videos that we do together, a lot of us are reflexologists or body workers or Reiki people, so it's like, but then there's also a lot that aren't. And anyway, I just wanted to say I want to hold space for that as well, that we're not like putting on rose-colored glasses and saying it's going to be okay, and that there's one way in, because I think there's a lot of different ways in for us to be with our healing process. There's not one way. So just thank you, Sandra, and everybody for sharing. It's really important. I wanted to move into just a simple question, which is, what does awareness mean to you? And you can either just type it in the chat, or you can just call it out loud. And I'm going to write them down as they come in. When you hear the word awareness, what does it mean to you?
Recognizing,
Hmm.
whether that be a feeling or how my body's feeling at a moment's notice. Like,
Right? Yeah. What else?
Presence.
Presence. I think of the word clear, like seeing something clearly, like things are like hyper, like awareness is like being awake. Things are very, very clear. That's what I think of when I think of awareness.
I think of connection or being tuned in, like if you're watching TV or listening to the radio, the signal is absolutely clear so that, you could, if it was the phone, you could talk back and forth to each other and not be going, what'd you say?
I love that. Being tuned in.
I think it's taking stock of what you have to work with and moving on from there.
Yeah. Taking stock with what you got. Yeah. Nice. I'm writing it all down. If you could hear my little tick, 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 I'm writing everything you say down.
I find for me, I have to be dialed down. So it has to be from a situation of being more centered and quiet to really get present, to get the awareness. I can't get the awareness if I'm juiced up on a couple cups of coffee or doing stuff that I know my energy is going to be all over the place. The awareness will only come, and sometimes I use that as an avoidance technique so I don't have the awareness. But the awareness really comes when I'm centered and I'm quiet and I'm connected.
Unbelievable. I just have to point out that I love that, right? Like somebody says tuned in, right? That's almost like inside through. Has to be dialed down or turned down, right? And someone else also could actually be turned up, right? Awareness comes when there's like abundant energy inside, coffee or not, right? Like this idea that awareness for different people can mean to come down, to come up, to go through. It's really cool. Anything else that comes to mind? Okay. And if something comes to mind later, just type it in the chat or call it out loud. And another thing I think of is in this awareness is our ability. Awareness for me is our ability to access sensory data. My ability to access not just sensory stuff, taste, smell, touch, sound, but my experience to deeply experience it. And maybe that is if I'm tuned down, tuned in, turned up. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree what you're saying, Chantel. Because that only, and for me, the only way is, yeah, because then you get the whole experience of it,
Right?
which is really incredible when you're hooked into it. It's like, whoa.
It's so I smoked cigarettes for years, and I remember somebody told me a good way to quit smoking is to really smoke that cigarette, like really experience it. And they were so right. They were so right. Because when I really smoked that cigarette, when I inhaled, it was disgusting. I was like, I mean, smoking a cigarette and having a cup of coffee and hanging out, it was like so great. But if I really was present with that cigarette, I was like, this tastes disgusting. So bizarre. I didn't quit at that point, but it was a good exercise. I needed more years.
More awareness.
More awareness. I needed more awareness. I was not aware yet. Oh my God. So, okay, so what else? So yeah, so sensory data, also, awareness can be about placement too, right? So with awareness, I can decipher, and there are parts of our brain that enable us to do this, right? Like the hippocampus and other areas as well. My awareness is my ability to decipher myself in time and space in relation to my inner body and my outer experiences. So my awareness, well, I don't even have to be aware. There's something spatially that's going on at the level of my brain and nervous system that makes it so I am aware of what is going on within and without. But if I can tune in or turn on or tune down, whatever, I have a possibility. There is a possibility that my relationship with my inside and my outside world is, I would like to say more sublime. That's the word that instantly came to mind, but it actually means I'm more aware, right? There's something called interoception. If you've been in my classes, I bring it up often. Interoception is our ability. It's spelled INTEROCEPTION. Interoception is our ability to feel internal processes, right? Heartbeat, digestion, digestive juices moving, that sort of thing, right? The ones that are easiest to feel are I'm hungry, I'm thirsty. That's simple interoception. When you go down a little bit deeper, you could actually feel the movement, right? And then, of course, external processes, external stimuli, right? Being aware can involve becoming more clear. Something can become more colorful, more tuned in, right? So it's like, ooh, the wind at my skin, my feet are on the earth. So that ability of like, I walk around not remembering usually that I have feet, but if I employ awareness, I have the possibility right now to be like, I got feet. One foot's on the ground, another is draped over the leg. I can move my leg, right? Like this. I mean, what a gift, this body, right? That's awareness to me, right? So in simplest terms, it's my awareness of my body, it's awareness of my thoughts, it's the awareness of what is happening within and without, what I'm doing. It can also get into, well, yeah, let's play a little awareness game. We could kind of do this together. So it's not a meditation. We'll call it we'll call it what is, being with what is. So let's become really still. Let's just try it right now. There's one prompt. There's only going to be one prompt. What do you feel on your body? You may have to close your eyes and just take note of what comes in. What do you feel on your body? The next prompt can be, where am I holding tension? And just choose a top spot, one spot in your body. Where is there tension? And go there now and feel it. The last prompt can be, what does my heart say right now? My emotional heart say right now? So we can let that go. So it's a simple thing, right? I am a big fan of simplicity. I'm a big fan of a short book. I'm a big fan of direct communication. And if I tell myself I have to meditate for a very long time or be held in a certain position in order to do it right, nothing's going to go through. Nothing will be deeply felt. It won't penetrate my soul. I have to somehow intuitively find a way, very simply, to access what is trying to speak to me. And I believe all the time our bodies are trying to speak to us, right? I know it to be so, right? Because if I get quiet enough, like you, Lori, that's how I am. I got to get real quiet. And if I get quiet enough, I could start to feel the sensations. Um, and so some methods of awareness, and this is what I want to open up to next. So for me, one of my methods of awareness is, we'll call it the what is meditation, right? What is right now? What does my outer body feel? What does my inner body sense? Is there a thought in my mind? Like just very, very basic, right? Another way to access is my breath, is just breathing for a short period of time, right? So I say, I'm just going to breathe for a minute and try and attempt to allow the thoughts to fall away, knowing they'll surely return in a minute, right? So I just breathe. Another way in for me to feel awareness is touch, is for me to move my fingers and my hands and to touch my body. I am here now. I've said this before. I think I said this in the class when we were talking about anxiety and panic, right? If I start to really kind of spin out, I have to say, I'm here. I'm here now. I'm here now. I'm sitting down now. I'm with you now. There's water beside me now. I touch and I ground myself in reality. That makes me aware. And I have to say those things aloud. And if I'm walking down the street, I put in my earbuds and I'm talking to myself saying, I am here now. Because that's more important than anybody else thinking I'm crazy for talking to myself. I'm trying to ground myself, right? That's one of my ways in to becoming more aware and and not outside myself. Another thing, and this is something, self-care, like receiving a session from somebody else, right? Actually, for me to receive Reiki, for me to receive reflexology, whatever it is. And one thing I really like about Peter and Dorota from Touchpoint is they engage the client, right? This is
Mhm.
right? It's very
Mhm.
powerful.
Very powerful.
They're
Yeah.
saying, this is where I am. What are you feeling now? They're bringing consciousness to the area and they're asking the client to bring their consciousness also to the area. So those are my methods of awareness. What are some that come to mind that maybe I haven't mentioned, or what do you do to make yourself feel more present or aware?
I name things. Like if I get anxious and I feel like I'm getting overwhelmed, I'll start, especially when I'm walking, I'll be like, there's the house, there's there's the tree, there's the car, there's the blue car. And then I go even into further detail. So it's like the visual of like, okay, I go through and I'm naming different places and breathing too at the same time. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love that. So as always, I love to just write these down, right? Naming the things in your environment. Yeah. It's simple as well, right? There's a car. It's a blue car. Really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to do that as well. Like, what is in my reality right now? What is,
Yep.
and then during COVID, I started with I am safe, I am loved, I am not alone. And when
Mm.
I start feeling those things, that is just, to remind myself, I'm safe, I'm not alone here, and I am loved. And that just kind of helps remind me of truth when I get on, I call it crazy train, when I jump on crazy train. And yeah. So
Oh my God, total crazy train. And we've all been on crazy train, right? We've probably been on them together. It's so good. Okay. Anybody else? Any other?
how did I get there?
Right. I didn't buy a
No,
ticket for
with
this.
no destination too, Kim. It's kind of like, right? You're on this crazy train with like, okay, where's the stop?
I do that same thing, but it's like, what small blessings are there right now? And
Oh,
it can be something as simple as looking at a bug crawling uh, close to my foot. If I'm outside, because I go outside a lot barefoot, I'm really into grounding.
great.
And I'll say, look at that little life form. Are things I have to look forward to today, like a meal I'm going to cook. And it used to be like cook. It's a 4-letter word, cook. Now it's like I'm infusing this energy into this meal, and this meal is going to nourish my family. Looking at things a whole different way from what I used to.
Awesome. All right. Somebody else on, who else? Did somebody else unmute? Okay, I love it. I have to just repeat. This is why I like to write it down, is because then I'm aware of then I'm aware. Oh my God. Then I'm aware of where we all are crossing over. Lori, right, naming things. It was a very simple act. What is in front of me right now? What is my reality right now? What are my small blessings right now? Looking forward to what I'm doing today, right? So there's this sense of and I like that we're looking at our reality right now. We're asking questions to ourselves about what we're sensing. And then I think this is really cool, is our awareness, this idea of spatial reality or time, that we have this capacity. I took a class once called, it was something like time travel and unconditional love. It was a very interesting class. And it had to do with this idea that our brains, we have the capacity to go back and to move forward through so-called time and space. So this idea of what will I cook today? And there was another, some of you have the Something New Every Day book that I wrote, the very first one, I think. Or maybe it's the second one, I don't know, but it talks about how it's the second one, where you can, just by planning travel, can the hormones in the body, the expressions of the body, what is released in the body, that serotonin, that good feeling that we get happens just in the planning process of thinking ahead, looking ahead. You said nourishing and infusing with love. All of that comes from the planning. It's actually the trip is usually like, right? Like we get on the trip and we're like, this isn't what I expected. But the creation of the thing, the possibility of the thing, that's really cool. I really like that you brought that up. Yeah. Okay. Now, what about honesty? What do we think honesty is for us? Yeah. What is honesty to you?
I just had a moment this past weekend. We were in the church parking lot, and my husband was driving, and if we're gonna have an argument, it's in a parking lot. Cause I'm just like, park the car. We can walk, we have legs, and he's gotta look for the perfect parking spot. So, but we're going to church. It's supposed to be a happy day. And he kind of like zipped in and out of cars. And I just kind of like, you know, and getting honest was with him later to be able to say, you know, that was all me. That was not, that was my reaction and everything that was going on, like almost kind of like I could sense his aggravation and that was me responding to his. So being honest is just really expressing to my loved one or whatever of my own, that I own it. Had nothing to do with you. Easy for me to blame you, but that is mine. I did not downshift. I did not regulate. I own it. All me. So that's, yeah.
So good. Beautiful. What else? What is honesty?
I just have to say to Kim, that's very admirable of you to do that.
Oh.
Many of us don't,
Unfortunately, I probably need
but
more of
many of
those
us,
days.
but many of us don't do that. We will continue the argument rather than fessing up and saying, you know what, I just blew a gasket and I blew it on you and you didn't deserve that. You own that.
Thank
Not
you.
many of us do that. So good for you for doing that.
Thanks.
Yeah, you owned your truth.
And there's
And
a
I
lot
hope
of
he appreciated it.
vulnerability. Bev, there's a lot of vulnerability.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's,
I
and
really
that's,
hope he appreciated that what you did there for him.
yeah.
But you did it for yourself.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because otherwise you could hold on to that and what would be the point? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Well, and that's the thing, like that could have festered in your being, and then you could have then become ill because of holding on to that frustration and anger. So by releasing it, you did not only your husband the favor of saying, I own it, but you also did yourself and your body a really good thing. So give yourself a pat on the back.
thank you.
I wrote down,
Yeah, there you go.
Bev, I wrote down,
Yes.
I wrote down releasing pride when you were speaking, because so much of that is like, right, it's hard to do that thing because we want to be right. We want everybody to know that we're right. We want them to know that we're right. And then maybe even if we do apologize, we're going to keep score because next time they better, right? It's like there's a lot of ego and pride attached. And just to like this possibility that if I'm aware that I have a part to play in every single situation I'm in, then I can always apologize because
Exactly.
right? And again, it's just so it's awareness. I have to be aware that I always have a part and I want to be good. I want to be a good person. And I'm going to get out of my way. I'm going to take whatever time I need to breathe, to be aware, to calm, to do all my tools, to get into my heart. I was listening to Marianne Williamson 2 days ago, maybe, and she was talking about she was the reason. This is not exactly what she said, but essentially she was saying the reason why we're here is kind of something like to remember who we are and to think like God. And I went, holy moly, guacamole! My thoughts. I have a long way to go, right? But what an admirable thing for me to think about. Like, how am I behaving today? How did I treat that person today? How did I treat myself today? Like this idea of, again, it's like awareness of self and bringing it back. Really good. Anybody else, when you think of honesty, what does it bring up for you?
When I think of honesty, I realize that it's coming. So when I'm honest with myself, I can be less gentle. Still, for me, honesty has to involve having the highest intent. Maybe unpleasant. I still try to have love there with my honesty and highest intent. I don't want to hurt. I want to help. I also want to be able to see, to be aware of other of possibilities that we may not think about, that, when I see people through my own little rose colored glasses that, okay, maybe you've been given, terrible diagnosis, but, in my own experience, and being truthful, it's like, I don't see that, that is necessarily what needs to happen. My honesty leaves room for all kinds of possibilities, because I think, we're all limitless. There's God energy everywhere. We are all filled with God energy. We're just all part of the same ocean.
It's so important what you just said, because right, it's how many times have we said or heard somebody say, "I was just being honest. I'm just trying to be honest. You did this thing, so I'm going to be honest and tell you about the thing you did." And it's like, that brings us into perception, right? Which is the next thing we'll talk about. But really, really good. Yeah, that honesty. May honesty be governed by love. I'm going to read you something. There's a book called Awareness. I don't even know if it's still on my bookshelf. I got it years ago by Anthony DeMello. It's a little book. It's a little book, and I love little books. And I'm gonna read something to you. Just two little passages from two sections of the book, just to kind of because I think it's good. The first thing I want you to, this is a quote. The first thing I want you to understand, if you really want to wake up, is that you don't want to wake up. The first step in waking up is to be honest enough to admit to yourself that you don't like it and you don't want to be happy. Just going to drop that into the pond. If this first question is, do I want to wake up? Do I want to see clearly? Do I want to really be honest? Do I really want to be happy? Am I living a life in accordance with that truth? Because if I am, it's going to be painful. Pain, because pain is growth, like a lotus flower or a human, like growing spurts, like it's painful. So do I want to be happily, deeply happy? What would I have to let go of? I'd probably have to let go of some stuff. Could I let go? What thought forms would I have to let go of? Would I have to release in order to be happy? Probably quite a bit. Right? So that's the journey then. Can I continue to release these thought forms, these negative things, or so-called negative? I don't really believe that there's, because that gets me into pride too. That person's negative. It's like, no, it's just energy, right? And my perception is that it's negative. So I'm going to work on my perception rather than just naming things and gossiping. The other thing from his book that I'll read you, some of us get woken, and I'll put this in the group. I'll type these out, and right now it's just a screenshot, but I'll type it out and put it in our group so you guys have these quotes. And his book. Some of us get woken up by the harsh realities of life. We suffer so much that we wake up. But people keep bumping again and again into life. They still go on sleepwalking. They never wake up. Tragically, it never occurs to them that there may be another way. It never occurs to them that there may be a better way. Still, if you haven't been bumped sufficiently by life and you haven't suffered enough, then there is another way: to listen. I don't mean you have to agree with what I'm saying. That wouldn't be listening. Believe me, it really doesn't matter whether you agree with what I'm saying or you don't, because agreement and disagreement have to do with words and concepts and theories. They don't have anything to do with the truth. Truth is never expressed in words. Truth is cited suddenly as a result of a certain attitude. So you could be disagreeing with me and still cite the truth. But there has to be an attitude of openness, of willingness to discover something new. So, yeah. With that in mind.
So Chantel, can I just say something with that in mind?
Yes, please.
I saw the word honesty and I was like, no, I don't like this word. Why couldn't she pick another word instead of that word? it was just so, and that was like my core kind of like, that's where I went. And, you know, there's just this level of this stuff of like, it's so much work. It's so much work to kind of look at this stuff. I'm like, I don't want to be honest anymore. I don't want to have to look at that stuff. So yeah. So that's, I think, what kind of came up for me. I was like, wow, honesty. Oh, really?
It's so good. You know, I mean, you and I talked too about the, you know, this like, this is the healing process, is when we just open our mouths and say, this sucks. This, not a fan of this word. Like, that's like our heart just kind of cracks open a little bit more. Oh no. Oh my God, did I just said it in front of
All these people.
all these
Yeah.
people? It's like so cool. And your right? And then your laughter is like such a light. It's like, oh my gosh. So admitting the thing that we think is bad or wrong, like it's perfect.
But you know what? I can actually feel it in my heart a little bit, the honesty. So it's like, just even when you talk about it, there's just like a little broken like heart in there related to it. So, you know, and I would have to look at, where's the dishonesty? Kind of, I have to write about it, I think, to really kind of figure out what's going on there. It's a great opportunity for me to go deeper with what I need to look at, for
So
sure.
good. So good. And that's really good. Yeah, I would extend that to everyone who's with all of these words, like to be able to, oh, I think I froze. Oh no, there it is. Okay. Yeah, what a great thing to be aware of what these words. I wanted to bring, I'm going to read in a second some of the things that were put on the group page. And Sandra, you could read your own, but the other two people aren't here that wrote, so I'm going to read those. But this idea of, yeah, I love that, being really aware. Well, it's being aware of a little trigger, right? Something inside us that goes, I don't want to do that. So, I would say, yeah, for myself too, I like that. If there's a word or a person or a situation that is not feeling right, let us write about it. Totally. Such a good reminder. That's another tool. Writing is a tool. So let's then we'll probably go over, usually I try to keep these to an hour, but I think we'll probably go an hour and 15 today. Because I want
Is
to
it bad if I dress her?
say it again.
So sometimes I dress her, you know, in my mind, like the little toddler, like I put cute clothes on her and because it's kind of a way for me to love that little, you know, like that person that's, I don't want her right now. And so to give her, yeah, you know, like it's because it's a way for me to love that part of me, even though, but if I were to look at that as a child, it's just my inner toddler. And so, you know, so I dress her sometimes.
I love that. I don't want to dress. Yeah, totally. And if you guys have ever done, you know, the kind of work where you look at parts of self and you let it like, so I might, you know, my liver or something. So I talk to my liver and then I place it outside myself, and it usually becomes a little me who is very, has a lot of opinions. And she often is like a little girl who is, and let me know. I don't know if my internet stopped again. I keep on getting these warnings that I'm unstable. What do you think that means? Hey, so yeah, this idea of like, if I talk to a part of myself and I put it, my liver or my kidneys or my whatever, and I put it outside myself, it's a little girl, and it's me as a little girl, and she is recalcitrant and has a lot to say. But the longer I'm with her and the more I listen to her and I say, well, what do you need? What do you need? And she goes, I don't need anything. You don't listen to me. And I go, okay, I'll listen now. And I just let her talk. And she's a punk girl. I was just so funny because I was such a quiet kid. But she's like all dressed all punk. Very interesting. And you know, may we use our imagination. Like this can get us into some really sweet places. I want to move into perception.
Can I just say something, please?
Of course, please.
Thank you. I just want to say to Kim, Kim, was that you dress her, DRESS, or you direct her?
Oh no, I dress her in a really
Dress
cute
her.
fit.
Okay. So you're talking about your inner self, your little girl, when you were a little girl. You're loving and nurturing the little girl that possibly
Might be where some of the temper tantrums come from, right? Of
Yeah.
why we don't want to do something or, you know, whatever it is. And so I don't know, that's instead of shooting or disciplining, I feel called to love her and
Yeah. Yeah, you're loving and nurturing.
And Kim,
But
for me,
you're dressing her with love and nurturing. How
that's what I do, because the little girl oftentimes is lost, you know, I'll end up feeling very much alone.
I
Beautiful.
also loved what you said, Chantel. It was beautiful.
Mm.
Yeah.
You know, it's so funny. My internet keeps on going in and out, so I'm missing these little pieces.
Yeah. You
I'm
keep
sure
going
you're-
on.
Me too, right? You guys are kind of every once in a while I go out too, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But what's cool is with the recording, I'm actually going to be able to watch this and usually it's been my experience that even though my internet's bad, I'll be able to listen to you all again and it should be clear. Hopefully it won't be. It won't be. Okay, so I want to move on into perception. My goal is to not go over more than 15 minutes. So I want to get into perception and surrender. Okay, so before we do that, I want to read what was on our group page because I think it'll help us kind of move into perception, what we perceive to be true, and then ultimately surrender as well. So I'm gonna just pull this up really quick. Do. So I had asked the question, I had said in preparation for our class next week, you know, I'm thinking about awareness, honesty, surrender. What do you all think? And so I want to just read what people said um, because, so Jen had said awareness dash, I feel it, acknowledge it. Honesty dash, I know and own it. Surrender dash, I accept it. Angelique, who was here earlier, she said, surrender means my awareness of loss. It's having to release dreams I had. It isn't fun at times. Surrender means, I guess, I know nothing at all. And then Sandra, who is with us, and maybe you could speak to this as well. She says, you can't just say you will surrender to what comes. You have to have faith that what comes will be what you need. And to that, I say, preach. There's a lot of, well, that's back to trust, right? Can I trust that what I'm surrendering to is for my greatest good and the greatest good of all? So, what do you think? Well, let's just ask a very direct question. How do you think your perception is? Do you think perception is a problem? Does it get you in trouble? You know, what do you think when you hear the word perception or your perception or perceived ideas and stuff? What comes to mind? And maybe it's a yes, no. It could be a yes, no too, right? Like I have a perception in a certain conversation with a certain person that I'm right because of X, Y, Z. So if I'm just looking at that simple example, is my perception faulty if I think I'm right? Yes or no? Is there such a thing as right? and wrong.
That goes back to honesty and truth. Everyone's truth is different. Everyone looks at everything different, so the perception's different.
Yes.
And you just have to, my thing is always, okay, I have no control over anything except how I react. That's what I remember. That's what I remind myself of.
Mm. Beautiful. I'm gonna
I
write it.
think perception is the way you receive the message, right or wrong. It's your perception. So how can anybody say, right? It's the way you have received that message.
Mm.
So individual, totally.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I say it all the time. I don't believe in right, wrong, good, up, down, side, like because we're all so individual and we have
Mm.
our perceived idea of what is good, bad, up, down, sideways. So there's no argument. Right? I mean, there's things I can do in my life if that perception you have of me causes me pain in some kind of way, because I'm a human at a certain point in my evolution where I still get hurt. I haven't evolved past certain things that I can get hurt or shaky if somebody says a certain thing to me, right? I'm still working on that. So I can extricate myself from situations that maybe don't feel conducive to where I am in my present state of being.
I think perception, in the way I described it, it kind of goes hand in hand with opinions. Your
Mm.
opinion is your opinion, and nobody can tell you that your opinion is right or wrong. And yet I'll tell you an example. When I was doing my, when I went back to school and went into social work, we had to do an assignment based on our opinion. And the instructor failed the whole class.
Oh,
She failed the whole class. And she was trying to tell us that our opinions were not correct. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like, like I was a 40-year-old student when I went back to do this. And I just said, you know what? I need to discuss this with you because I'm really not understanding why my opinion is not correct, because it's my opinion. It belongs to me. It may not be your opinion and you may not agree with my opinion, but who gives you the right to tell me that my opinion is wrong?
Oh, it's so good, Bev. What you just said is so good. I have to interject. It's so good. Yeah, absolutely. So what's so interesting about this is it's cyclical, right? So, oh gosh, I'm so excited. I don't even know how to talk. Um, yeah, our opinions are exactly our own. How we perceive the world is exactly as is. So I'm somebody who always prefers to speak in the I. I don't like to say you or we or whatever, because I think it's very dangerous, especially when I teach classes, like live classes. I'm very careful of this, that I'm not saying we all or you, because because I don't know that. It's impossible. I'm not in your body. What I love about someone's opinion is that I can be witness to it. I can listen to it. I can agree or disagree, like Anthony DeMello was saying. I can agree or disagree. It doesn't matter. That's not what's important. Can I be somebody that just stands in the presence of somebody sharing their truth? What's interesting is it's cyclical, because here's my opinion. Then someone else says, well, I got an opinion about your opinion. And I go, well, gosh, well, then your opinion's wrong because you shouldn't have an opinion about my opinion. This is like when I say I hate haters, it's cyclical, right? So the beauty of what you just said is like so profound to me, because I don't even know how to put it to words. It's like there's it makes me think of Greek tragedy. There's nowhere to stop it, right? Because her opinion is that she could have an opinion about your opinion.
Absolutely.
So her
Yeah,
opinion can't be wrong then either.
exactly.
Ah.
And that's what I was trying to say to her. Right? And I said, you failed a class of 32 students based on you did not agree with their opinion. That's your opinion.
Right.
right? And she was actually an interim instructor because our regular instructor had to take a few months off for medical reasons, whatever. And when the new instructor came back, we all just like, this is what happened. What are you going to do about it? And she said, I can't do anything about it because I wasn't here. I was not the instructor. So we all failed that particular assignment.
Oh my gosh, it's such a, I mean,
Right?
it's just so ripe. It's such a good, thank you for sharing that. It's such,
And
it's,
yeah, I mean, that's an experience that will probably stay with me for the rest of my life. And it kind of, I think, helps gear. But anyway, there you go.
so good. I missed that. You froze on that last part. But did everybody else hear the whole thing? Okay, so I'll get to watch the video then. My darn internet. Yeah, what I did get is that you said it helped, and I feel that way when things happen, so-called bad things happen. I'm like there's a lot is gained from it. Really good. I love this. I love our sharing. This is great. Okay, let's end with surrender. Let's end this class with surrender. So I said earlier that I believe the steps to awareness are actually awareness itself is inherent in awareness. Honesty must be present in order for me to become truly aware. I have to release my perceived reality, my perception of what I think is true. And then ultimately, I must surrender to something. And I think that's different for everybody. That's something, it's a fill in the blank kind of thing. But ultimately, it's a surrendering that for me, and I want to hear what you feel, and if you feel it's even related at all. For me, surrender means that if I can surrender to any given moment of what is, and I'm honest about that, and I'm fully aware that if I can change in that moment, I feel the ripples go quite far. I feel the change within my cells. Then everyone I interact with feels the change. It extends greater still here to who watches or listens to our conversation today. And I believe in some way we're so interconnected that it can change the world. So it's a huge responsibility I have, but a sweet one that I can begin to work on myself to say, okay, I'm going to have greater awareness. I'm going to be as honest as I possibly can. I'm going to continue to work on that. I'm going to release my ideas of perception and being right and having pride and all that stuff. And I'm going to surrender knowing that this is the right course of action for the greatest good of myself and all beings. For you, what say you? What say you about surrender? Is it a piece to your puzzle of awareness? Is it a piece to the puzzle of helping pain, illness, disease shift? What do you think?
I have a reflexology experience. That happens a lot. So sometimes I go in and I'm working with a client and I have an idea, I do health history or I know them and I have an idea about, I feel their feet. I just kind of have the sense of where I want to go. But then the feet turn around and they are either like this to me or like, you're not touching me, or the body is saying, no way are you touching. And listen and listen and surrender to the moment and surrender to what the person needs at that time. And it's always a lesson. I've done reflexology for a long time, but sometimes my ego gets in there and it's like, it's really interesting to see. And then I have the observing self that's kind of watching and I'm like, Lori, the body is telling you, this is not your agenda here. This has nothing to do. This is a sacred space. You got to pull back. So there's my surrender of a real life situation. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you. Really good. I love it. And I think it's really important that we take it out of theory and we look at it in our lives. Thank you, Lori and Kitty. Anybody else?
To me, surrender is just realizing that the only thing I can control, and sometimes I can't control that, is my own reactions to things. And in surrendering, I think I surrender judgment. Yeah, that's a big thing that, I try to stop labeling things as good, bad, or whatever, and just accept, whatever's going on there. And just, try to feel, the truth in whatever that situation is. But I think in trying to suspend judgment, suspend any desire to control, and just be open to the what is, is how you learn and how you heal. Yeah, for me.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Beautiful.
I try to do it with just an open-handed, like, right, I'm just gonna let it go, just let whatever it is, and then for me, then it's the act of trust. I'm gonna trust the next step, whatever that is that I can't even possibly fathom, but perceptions, and acknowledge too where I'm at, and even let go judgment of self or being in that place, but just, that's in my reflexology practice, it might show up in people canceling or people running late, and I just I trust that who's supposed to be in the chair is going to be in the chair, and I'm going to let bring such a sense of peace and calm, because then I picture myself, if I'm gripping hold to it's got to be my way, or like open and wide, so even like throughout the day, right? Woo, I gotta open. I don't know. That's
So good. It's so good. You just I'm gonna share, I'll share a quote. We'll end class with a quote today that I use in another. I wasn't planning on using it today, but I'm gonna share it with you all. Anybody else? Really, really good what everybody is saying.
I was going to say, I find when I surrender, like the other day, just the reflexology sessions I did, just I tried to just feel. And when I left work that day, I just felt this incredible sense of joy and love, and just so at peace. And to me, that's what's just love and joy and well-being and tranquility. So
Beautiful. Ah, so good. Okay. First of all, just thank you so much. This has been so enriching to me. I love, and I also just love writing down what everybody says, like how we're crossing, how we're different, how we're the same. It's so beautiful just to see the words one right after the other and to listen to them too. It's really, I dig it. I dig it the most. So I wanted to end with just sharing a couple things. I already brought up some earlier, and we've all shared some things that we do, simple things that we do to ground us in a moment. And I wanted to share just a couple more, and then I'll end with that quote that Kim, you just reminded me of. But the first, if we were to do some self-care tools around what we did today, because this is kind of our premise often with these classes, is I would say there is a way to do a reflexology session for self that involves no protocol, no focusing on what is right or wrong, simply providing touch and staying curious and counting. I do this a lot in my classes that are for people who don't know what reflexology is they learn a simple press and hold, and they just count up to 5 and hold it. They don't know what the reflexology point is. They don't know, they're not paying attention to what's wrong in their body or what even hurts in their hand. So I would offer this as another simple tool of just pressing on the hand, counting up to 5, and then beginning to follow your intuition. Do I press and hold? Do I move on to another area? Do I rock a little? Am I breathing? Is my jaw tight? Like just making it a simple act of touch. What I like about reflexology, or just that touch awareness of you're just touching your hand. Don't even think reflexology. I'm just touching my hand. I'm applying pressure. Is my jaw loose? Are my shoulders relaxed? Can I take a breath? It's so simple. It's kind of a little bit of nothingness, really, right? It's just a simple touch and emptying the brain. Another thing you could do is simply do a simple movement, moving your head side to side, but not side to side, one right after the other, but actually looking side. I'm looking at my cat, my glasses, my hand. Taking a breath, right? So again, simple movement of fingers and toes. Something like a rocking chair. This is actually, there have been studies done about rocking chairs and the improvement of circulation and lymphatic flow. That and there's actually, there was a study once, I was trying to find it. I heard about it years ago about longevity of life. It's very interesting when you think about how you have to rock and how you have to move your feet off the floor in order to continue that rock. It's really an undulation of this in reflexology, what would be, because we're looking at the feet, the articulation of heart, chest, lungs, neck, and brain, right? So this whole upper, and which is where the spinal cord too is, right? So this idea of taking time to simply be in a rocking chair. I don't know if any of you have rocking chairs. I don't have a rocking chair, but I could kind of do it here. And then that I'll leave you with just that. I'm gonna move to the quote because I want to honor our time and move into our days and nights. So I'm gonna bring up this quote, and I'm actually gonna share my screen because because okay, I wasn't planning on doing this, so just give me 1 second. I think I go to right. Okay, good. So I can do that. So I can move into a slide, and then I go to you, and I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so I'm going to play from current slide. Here we go. So this is Michael Singer. If there's a book he wrote called The Surrender Experiment. He also wrote The Untethered Soul. The practice of surrender. I'm surprised I didn't even think of this for this class. How funny is that? The practice of surrender was actually done in 2 distinct steps. First, you let go of the personal reactions of like and dislike that form inside your mind and heart. And second, with the resulting sense of clarity, you simply look to see what is being asked of you by the situation unfolding in front of you. What would you be doing if you weren't being influenced by the reactions of like or dislike? Following that deeper guidance will take your life in a very different direction from where your preferences would have led you. Michael Singer, The Surrender Experiment. Well, there you go. Have a beautiful day, you all.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Chantel.
Thank you so much. I'll see you all soon.
You
Have a
too.
beautiful day. Bye.